Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with here today. Excuse me, really quick here. There we go. With an article from The Federalist dated October 16th, and it says 4 years after the Biden laptop cover-up, media election interference is worse than ever. Because, of course it is, because they can't help themselves, and if you don't hate the media enough, you probably should. So as the life cycle of each media lie shrinks, the disinformation gets even more desperate. And I apologize ahead of time for any hiccups that may happen. I feel like they're starting to come on. So let's get into this before they really hit full force. It says 4 years ago this week, the corporate press helped airlift Joe Biden to the White House by blacking out coverage of his international pay-for-play scandal after the New York Post discovered evidence of this scandal on an abandoned Biden laptop. The press reaction ranged from refusing entirely to cover the story because it was a waste of time, to only covering it insofar as outlets could cast doubt on its legitimacy. After the election, polling would show that 1 in 6 Biden voters would have changed their vote had they known about some of the stories suppressed by the media, including the Hunter Biden laptop story, and that was enough to say that Trump should have won the election, if that was the case. It was the most infamous, though not the only, instance of journalists interfering to swing the 2020 election for the Democrats by stifling inconvenient reporting and propagating nonsense about Donald Trump, Biden's Republican opponent. It says Biden got a very minor taste of the media's wrath this summer when the powers that be decided he was no longer an expedient means to Democrat victory, and he didn't last a month. It says the Biden laptop story blackout followed 4 entire years in which the media, in tandem with the Clinton campaign and the intelligence apparatus, spread lies about Trump based on the Russia collusion hoax and every other dubiously sourced rumor they could find. Good news is, after seeing how cravenly the corporate press carried water for the Clinton campaign's false narrative about Trump and Russia, America is recognizing and dismissing media hoaxes more quickly these days. And as the life cycle of each media lie shrinks, the dishonesty, dare I say, disinformation, has been attempted even more rapidly and more desperately. So just last week, CBS News used deceptive video splicing to replace one of Democrat presidential candidates Kamala Harris's answers on 60 Minutes with one that sounded less awful. And I think they're under FEC investigation for that as well. I just saw that today. So, keeping on going, it says a preview clip of the interview showed Harris responding to a question with nonsensical babble, but when the full interview aired, that answer was nowhere to be seen, having been replaced by a completely different response. The original answer was also missing from the transcript released by the network, and CBS continues to refuse to release an undoctored transcript. What this tells me, and what this should tell you, is do not trust CBS for your news. It says the most outrageous election interference from the press this cycle might be the pile-up on Trump by ABC News moderators when Trump met Harris for a singular presidential debate in September. Whoa, excuse me. That was random, and I'm not cutting that out. It says they lobbied fact checks at Trump left and right while refusing to question Harris's many falsehoods. Throughout the debate, the format resembled ABC's David Muir and Lindsey Davis asking Trump to explain how he could possibly be so horrible, and then giving Harris a chance to opine on whether she thought Trump was horrible and why. Yeah, that was pretty much it. And they even said afterwards that they were only going to fact check Trump. So not exactly even, I would say. So the moderators weren't much better when vice presidential candidates J.D. Vance and Tim Walz met for their own debate, with CBS News promising not to fact-check the candidates before breaking that promise to challenge, incorrectly, one of Vance's responses. As Harris's campaign itself, at least the brat, joyful version of it that we're supposed to believe, what the hell can somebody tell me what brat even means anyway? This is itself a media creation. It says only 87 days ago, Kamala Harris was not the Democrat nominee, but only one of the least popular vice presidents in American history. Before she was magically shuttled into place as the presidential nominee, Harris was the subject of headlines like Exasperation and Dysfunction, inside Kamala Harris's frustrating start as vice president, and How Joe Biden Should Solve the Kamala Harris Conundrum from the corporate press. It was so bad that Democrats like Senator Elizabeth Warren were leaving open the question of whether Biden should switch out his unpopular VP in 2024, and New York Magazine answered that question in the affirmative. The New York Times called her Democrats' unspoken electoral challenge, and I love how they all just completely flipped on that. It says that all changed on July 21st. As soon as Harris became the only option to face Trump, newsrooms fell into line and began pumping out a gushy narrative about the reintroduction of Kamala Harris, and as Ben Shapiro said, it was like her 9th reintroduction, to convince voters how Kamala Harris can win and make history. Journalists said they were coconut-pilled, whatever that means. It was obvious to everyone why the change really happened. Before that, of course, the entire media establishment had hung its tattered reputation on the brazenly disqualifying lie that Joe Biden's brain was still in office. That narrative was discarded, like old Joe, as soon as it was no longer politically expedient. If Biden was still the nominee, they'd still be spreading it. Weeks before that, when Donald Trump nearly had his head exploded on live TV, in an attempt incubated by years of assassination prep by the media, and that is basically just them saying stuff like he's a fascist and all this stuff that he isn't, just to kind of make people go, well, hey, if he really is these things, maybe you should do something about it. It says headline writers first downplayed the shooting as an incident involving popping noises. I saw that and it was like, are you guys retarded? I mean, it's a rhetorical question, but, It says then, talking heads victim blamed him for getting himself shot. News photographers started complaining that the iconic image of Trump fist-pumping with the American flag behind him moments after he was shot was too flattering. When another assassination attempt happened 2 months later, it was rushed out of the news as quickly as possible. It says when Harris's role as the border czar of an administration that roughly doubled the number of illegal aliens in the country became a political liability, the media just all agreed just to pretend she never had been in charge of the border, actually. Axios even corrected its own previous reporting to sell the lie. And there's a good video out there that you can go find of all the media on TV saying that she is the border czar, like just a couple of years ago. And now they're all like, we never said that. Like all the same people. It says the media regularly attempt to convince voters that Trump plans to imprison his political opponents while also treating the multi-pronged attempt by the Biden-Harris Justice Department and its allies to throw Trump in prison. And I just did a video a few days ago on that, so check that out if you wouldn't mind. It says they make up stupid lies too, and sometimes the dumber the lie, the more aggressive the news cycle. When Trump said the auto industry would face a bloodbath of economic repercussions if he lost the election, newsrooms covered the remark as if Trump had threatened to personally kill and maim his political opponents in an election night massacre. Yeah, and they're still doing that. Kamala even said that recently in one of her speeches, or one of her rallies, I should say. And it's like, are you retarded? Because it's not what happened. It says when the Trump campaign drew attention to concerns expressed by residents of a small Ohio town that Haitian migrants dumped there by the Biden-Harris administration's border disaster were terrorizing residents, overwhelming schools, causing deadly car accidents, and gruesomely capturing and eating small animals, the media pretended Trump was just a crazy old man ranting about cat and dog kebabs. Meanwhile, regime media makes excuses for Harris hiding from questions about her policies and get rewarded with assured softball interview slots in return. They're setting new records for shamelessness in the election interference department, and they've still got 3 weeks to go. And probably be about 2 weeks from the time you you hear it. But yeah, that's 100% right. That's kind of what's going on right now. And I'll never take, I'll always take every opportunity I can to crap on the media. So this is just another one of those instances. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.